Hello and welcome to VRTV. My name is Zena. Joining me on today's show are two names in VR who keep the cogs turning from behind the scenes. Samantha Kingston, co-founder of Virtual Umbrella, and Richard Huddy, chief gaming scientist at AMD. But before that, we'll have the news roundup and I'll also be announcing the 4 winners of the Albino Lullaby Steam code giveaway. The past week's news was dominated by GDC and VR was in high demand, with VR talks having to be moved to bigger rooms in order to accommodate all attendees. 2 massive pieces of news did emerge from the event concerning both PC and console gamers. Sony finally announced the price and due date of the PlayStation VR. The HMD is set to release in October this year, which just falls outside of its initial intended launch date, retailing at $399 US or £349.99, and there will be 50 titles to accompany the launch. Pre-orders are available in the UK online from Game, and in the US there is a bundle available that includes the HMD, PlayStation camera, 2 motion controls, PSVR demo disc, as well as PSVR Worlds. The other big piece of news that came from GDC was the announcement of the Oculus Rift's launch titles, which will of course help potential buyers work out what kind of HMD they really want. After showcasing 41 titles at GDC, Oculus VR listed a lineup of 30 launch titles, including Lucky's Tale, Radial G, Project Cars, and Eve Valkyrie. And finally, bringing the news back home to the UK, Nokia held the European launch of its professional-grade 360-degree camera, the Nokia Ozo, last week in London. Nokia also announced its partnership with VR content creators, The Foundry, and post-production software developers, Deluxe. Retail partners haven't yet been announced for Europe, but it will be priced at €55,000, with its Ozo Pioneer program allowing content creators a €15,000 discount off the camera. For any more on those news stories, head to vrfocus.com. Now to announce the 4 winners of the Albino Lullaby Steam code giveaway. And they are Mr. Rick Neal, Ryan David, Kevin Yu, and Arcade Game R. Congratulations to all of our winners. Make sure that we're able to contact you so we can send those codes straight over. For the rest of you, stick around until the end of the show for your chance to win GDC merch. Up next is Samantha Kingston from VR marketing company Virtual Umbrella. Some of our viewers may recognise and may have even been invited to VR events by my first guest, Samantha Kingston from Virtual Umbrella. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So Virtual Umbrella has come a pretty long way since it started up. Could you tell me about the start of it and the aim that you started out with?
Well, it's actually our birthday today. We are 1. I had worked for a games publisher beforehand, Dreams. I was their social media executive, and while I was there I kind of fell in love with VR. So I would go along to all the events that were going along, meeting all the developers, and then my business partner Bertie, he was thinking about bringing a company together, and he comes from a marketing background. And I was like, that's a really good idea. All right, let's do it. And then Virtual Umbrella was born.
Fantastic. And what were the main aims from the beginning until now? How has it kind of evolved?
Well, with any kind of innovative technology, there's always going to be areas that are lacking. Obviously, you have lots of different PR companies, press that are covering lots of different areas and industries, but nobody was just doing, we just do VR. That's all we do. And when I'd gone out and demoed and, was talking to a lot of developers, most of them were saying, we don't have time to actually do our marketing. So Bertie and I really figured that we wanted developers to stay developers and let them continue what they were doing, making amazing content, let us jump in and do the hard work for you.
And some of these developers are quite new to the whole game anyway, so it's helpful for them.
Part of my job is to make sure that these developers are meeting the right people, going to the right events, and getting out there, because there's a lot of developers that come to me now and I've don't even know who they are. And I'm like, where have you been? And they're like, oh, I've been here for 2 years, 3 years. And I'm like, why haven't you spoken to me yet? Let's get you out there. Let's go and get you chatting to people. So hence I tweet a lot of people and I email a lot of people and make sure everybody is talking.
And this lends a lot to the mainstream adoption of VR as a whole, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. You know, I always have a kit with me. If I'm on a train or, you know, on the tube, I'll put a Merge VR on my arm and just walk around with it, and people go, what's that? Where can I get that? Where can I try that? People I still talk to, like my family and my friends back home, are like, what's that VR thing? And I'm like, it's going to be huge. Put this on your face.
Just you wait.
Just you wait. Exactly.
What have been some of the biggest events that you've organised?
I love events anyway. So we started doing VR in the Bar, which we do in Dalston. We're doing another one in April, which is awesome. And that kind of led to a lot of other events. So in February this year, I did an event called VR UK at Ravensbourne University. And we managed to get about 600 people through the door. We had a real range of content, things to do with medicals, architecture, gaming, and also a lot of academic stuff, because obviously we're at a university, so it's kind of a perfect opportunity for them to give them a platform. So that's the biggest one we've done so far, and we've got like a few more planned.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing thing to get on board with. How can developers get in contact with you to be involved?
If you tweet me at K_Samantha1, I'll get straight back to you, or at Virtual Umbrella. If not, you can email me at samantha@virtualumbrella.co.uk.
Thank you so much, Sammy, for joining us here on VRTV. If you stick around, we have got Richard Huddy next, the Chief Gaming Scientist for AMD.
Liquid VR is an AMD technology initiative aimed at enabling a fully immersive and comfortable virtual reality experience.
I would like to welcome my second guest to the show, Richard Huddy. It's lovely to have you here with me and Samantha.
Pleasure to be here, thank you.
For the past year, AMD has had their answer to VR out on the markets. Could you tell us a little bit about Liquid VR?
Yeah, so the big deal, you're right, we launched it at GDC 2015, Liquid VR, which is an SDK, software development kit, for solving some of the innate problems in developing, particularly on PC. We've taken an interesting step over this year, and we've open sourced our Liquid VR, and it exposes the kind of capabilities that VR developers really need access to. They want to be able to scale really well across 1, 2, 3, 4 GPUs. They want to be able to take into account various latency hiding techniques. And if you've ever played with a VR headset in the early days, you'd know that you'd plug it in, the operating system would come up, half of it on the left eye, half of it on the right eye, and you could no longer tell what was going on in the world. So we've tried to address this kind of problem, and we've given access to more performance than ever before. So Liquid VR, yeah, pretty big deal from AMD actually.
How does Liquid VR benefit both VR buyers and also developers?
Sam made the point in the interview earlier on that you need to let developers be developers to get on with their job. And this really goes back to what we did with Liquid VR. By bringing that software together and giving this very direct access to the machine, we push down a little bit on where the high end of hardware is that you need to buy. So we typically say something like a 290, an R9 290 or a 390, that's the kind of hardware you need. But we're trying to push down as far as possible and make a PC that has a perfectly respectable graphics card good for VR. And efficiency in the software is the best way of doing that.
The most important points that you have to touch on and develop for are problems to do with latency and frame rates. What's the difference between the two?
Over the last 15 years or so, while I've been in PC gaming, we've been dominated by this idea that a higher frame rate is better than a lower frame rate and therefore must be worth more money, mustn't it? And as a general rule, that's pretty true. But there's something quite different about VR. The VR folks talk about motion to photon latency. How long does it take from the moment I move to the moment that I can see the consequences of that move on the screen? And the longer it is, the worse it is. The critical point is once you get to a 90th of a second, everyone's happy. You no longer get any of the motion sickness that we all used to complain about in VR a year or two ago. These days we don't talk about it anymore because we have solved the problem.
What parts AMD from its competitors? What makes Liquid VR so unique?
Oh, I think the number one thing about Liquid VR is the way we open it up. We're trying to move the industry forward. And so we have, as I say, open sourced it. It is straightforward for anyone to pick this kind of tech up. And one of the best things that we've seen over 2015 and early 2016 is that DX12 has arrived, and it has exposed the same kind of capabilities when it comes to the multi-GPU support. Most PCs just have one GPU and one graphics card that does the work, but it's possible to get a better experience out of having two. And particularly Liquid VR focuses on this as being a great solution for looking forwards. The other thing that we've done on the hardware side, we just introduced the Radeon Pro Duo. We allow developers to see what the kind of potency is for a machine that's a year down the line.
How is AMD pushing forward VR to be adopted by mainstream?
Yeah, so VR is a really big deal with AMD. We're investing a tremendous amount of time and energy into promoting it. And we're doing it in a whole bunch of ways. One of the most obvious things when you look at the Capsaicin event that we just ran out at GDC 2016 is that we talked about much, much more than just games. We work with medical, we work with engineering, we work with healthcare, we work with financial markets, we work with journalism. It's like the internet, it's not only for games, there are so many things. And the medium is the message was the way we talked about the internet. When it arrived 20, 25 years ago, suddenly it was a big deal that the internet was everywhere. And actually VR can have the same kind of impact. It's the infrastructure behind which all these new ways of presenting information arrive.
Thank you so much, Richard, and you too, Sammy, for joining me here on VRTV.
A great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Two viewers now have the chance to get their hands on our GDC merch bundle, including t-shirts, badges and stickers from some of the top VR names, including Oculus VR, Steam VR and various VR producers. All you have to do is either comment below or tweet me at Xena VR Focus telling me which major gaming event you're most looking forward to. Best of luck and I'll catch you next time.